The massive crystal dome that housed the Galactic Council shimmered with light from a dozen different star systems. Inside, representatives from 43 civilized worlds sat in their specially designed chambers. Some floated in water tanks, others existed as glowing gas clouds, and a few were living rocks that spoke through vibrations. Today they all shared the same emotion: fear. Ambassador Thren of the Zilithian Empire stood at the center of the chamber. His tall, thin frame trembled as he spoke. His people looked like living crystal sculptures, beautiful but fragile. The light that normally glowed from within his translucent skin was dim and flickering. "Honored council members," Thren's voice echoed through the dome. "My people are dying. The Vorthak swarm has already consumed 3 of our outer worlds. Our defenses cannot hold them back much longer." The council chamber filled with nervous whispers. Everyone knew about the Vorthak. They were the nightmare that haunted every peaceful civilization. The swarm traveled from system to system, eating everything in their path. Planets, ships, entire populations. Nothing was left behind. Councillor Marsh, whose species looked like floating jellyfish, spoke first. "The Hydrian fleet stands ready to help, but our ships cannot operate effectively in space combat. We need water to survive. The Rockan Defense Force moves too slowly," rumbled Councillor Granite, his stone body grinding as he shifted. "By the time we reach your system, it will be too late." One by one, each species offered excuses. The Nebulans existed as gas and had no physical weapons. The Florans were plant-based and could not survive in the vacuum of space. The Makani were excellent engineers but terrible fighters. Thren's light grew even dimmer. "Then my people are doomed. The Vorthak will reach our homeworld in 6 standard days. 2,700,000,000 Zilithians will be consumed." The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The Vorthak did not just kill their victims. They absorbed them, adding their knowledge and essence to the collective hive mind. Every person they consumed made them stronger. "What about the Terran Defense Alliance?" asked Councillor Wave, whose aquatic form rippled with concern. "Surely someone with their military reputation could help." Councillor Marsh's tentacles twitched nervously. "The Terrans are still in isolation. They refuse all contact since the Altair incident." "The Centauri Republic, then?" "They are dealing with civil war. Half their fleet is fighting the other half." As the excuses continued, a small figure in the corner of the chamber cleared his throat. Everyone turned to look at Recorder Pip, whose job was simply to document council meetings. His species, the Quillians, looked like small hedgehogs and were known for their excellent memory. "If I may suggest," Pip said in his squeaky voice, "there is one option we have not considered." "Speak," commanded the council speaker, a massive creature that looked like a living tree. Pip consulted his datapad, his tiny paws trembling. "According to our recent surveys, there is a species that might be able to help. They call themselves humans. They come from a world designated as Class 12 hazardous." Shocked gasps filled the chamber. Class 12 was the highest danger rating for inhabited worlds. It meant the planet was so dangerous that most galactic species would die within hours of landing there. "Impossible," stated Councillor Crystal, whose diamond-like body reflected the chamber's lights. "No intelligent species could evolve on a Class 12 world." "The survey must be wrong." Pip shook his head. "The survey is correct. The world they call Earth has extreme weather, deadly radiation from their star, poisonous plants, venomous animals, active volcanism, and unstable tectonics. The atmosphere itself would kill most of us. Yet somehow they not only survived but developed space travel." "Even if this is true," Councillor Marsh bubbled, "why would they help us? Deathworld species are known to be violent and unpredictable." "Because," Thren said suddenly, his voice filled with desperate hope, "they are our only chance." The council speaker's branches rustled as he considered this. "The risk is enormous. We know nothing about these humans except that they survived the impossible. They might be more dangerous than the Vorthak themselves. At least the Vorthak kill quickly," added Councillor Wave. "Deathworld species are known for their cruelty." Thren stepped forward, his crystal form catching the light. "My people built our civilization on beauty, art, and peaceful knowledge. We have never harmed another species. We have shared our discoveries freely with all who asked. Now we face extinction, and you debate whether to contact beings who might help because they might be dangerous." The chamber fell silent again. Everyone knew Thren spoke the truth. The Zilithians had given much to galactic civilization. Their crystal technology powered half the Council's equipment. Their music and art had inspired countless other species. Their peaceful philosophy had helped end several wars. The humans have one space fleet, Pip continued, reading from his datapad. They call it the Deep Space Fleet. It consists of primitive but functional ships, chemical rockets and nuclear power, very basic compared to our technology. Primitive weapons might not be enough against the Vorthak, observed Counselor Crystal. But primitive does not mean weak, Thren said. My people's ancient legends speak of the early days when we were not yet civilized. Those who survived the harshest times were often the strongest. The council speaker extended his branches for silence. Very well. We will vote. All in favor of contacting the humans? Slowly, representatives began to signal their agreement. Not because they believed it would work, but because there was no other choice. Motion passed, the speaker announced. Recorder Pip, prepare a message to these humans. Ask for their help. Pip's paws flew over his datapad. What should I tell them about payment? The Zilithians are wealthy, but human currency systems are unknown. Tell them, Thren said, his voice barely a whisper, that we will give them anything they ask for. Our art, our technology, our knowledge. If they save my people, all of it is theirs. And if they refuse? Asked Counselor Marsh. Thren's light flickered one last time before going completely dark. Then in 6 days, the galaxy will lose the Zilithian Empire forever. And someday, when the Vorthak have grown strong enough, they will come for the rest of you too. The message was sent immediately through the fastest communication channels available. It would take 2 days to reach human space. The Council could only hope that somewhere out there among the stars, beings tough enough to survive a death world might also be brave enough to fight a hopeless battle. As the Council session ended, none of them realized they had just made the most important decision in galactic history. They thought they were asking for help from primitive warriors. Instead, they were about to meet the species that would change everything. The message traveled through space, carrying with it the desperate hope of an entire civilization. Behind it, the Vorthak swarm continued its relentless advance, consuming everything in its path as it had done for 1,000,000 years. But this time, something was about to be different. Admiral Sarah Chen was drinking her morning coffee when the universe changed forever. She stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. Her ship was the pride of humanity's third deep space fleet, a kilometer-long vessel built for exploration and, if necessary, war. Admiral, called Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communications station. We're receiving a strange transmission. It's not from Earth Command. Chen set down her coffee mug, which read World's Most Dangerous Mom in faded letters. Her daughter had given it to her before this mission. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing a tall, thin creature that looked like it was made of living crystal. The image was poor quality and the sound crackled with static. When the creature spoke, its words were choppy and clearly machine-translated. Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Thren of the Zilithian Empire. We send this message in desperate hope. Our people face extinction from the Vorthak swarm. The Galactic Council has agreed to request your aid. Please, we beg you, help us. The message continued for several minutes, describing the enemy and the situation. When it ended, the bridge was completely silent. Well, said Commander Williams, Chen's second in command. That's not something you see every day. Chen studied the data that came with the message. Star charts, enemy ship configurations, and tactical information filled her screens. The situation was worse than the alien had described. The Vorthak swarm consisted of living ships, each one the size of a small city. They moved in perfect coordination, consuming everything in their path. Options? Chen asked her staff. We should forward this to Earth Command, said Lieutenant Parker from Tactical. This is way above our pay grade. We're explorers, not miracle workers. The nearest Earth Command base is 8 days away, Chen replied. Even if we send a message now, it will take them weeks to decide what to do. These Zilithians don't have weeks. Ma'am, Rodriguez called out. There's more data coming through. It looks like current battle reports. The main screen showed a 3-dimensional map of the Zilithian system. Red dots marked Vorthak positions. Blue dots showed friendly forces. Chen watched as the blue dots disappeared one by one. How many enemy ships? She asked. Computer estimates 50,000, Admiral. Maybe more. Williams whistled softly. 50,000. We have 47 ships. I've seen worse odds, Chen said, though that was not entirely true. Admiral, said Dr. Martinez, The fleet's xenobiologist. I've been studying their biology reports. These Vorthak are unlike anything we've encountered. They're a hive mind. Each ship is part of a larger organism, like ants or bees. Exactly. But these ants have spaceships and eat planets. Chen walked to the viewing window and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was dying. She thought about her daughter back on Earth, safe in her university dormitory. What if it was Earth under attack? What if no one came to help? Admiral, Williams said quietly. Earth Command has very specific orders about first contact situations. We're supposed to observe and report, not intervene. I know the orders, Commander. And there's the matter of jurisdiction. This is not human space. We have no authority here. Chen turned around to face her bridge crew. These were good people, trained professionals who had followed her through 3 years of deep space exploration. They deserved to know what she was thinking. Let me tell you what I see, she said. I see a peaceful species asking for help. I see an enemy that kills everything it touches. And I see us, the only ones close enough to do something about it. But Admiral, Parker protested, we're not even supposed to be here. This mission was supposed to be a routine survey of the outer sectors. Plans change, Lieutenant. Chen walked back to her command chair and sat down. She touched the communicator button on the armrest. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Report to battle stations. All crew to combat readiness. Navigation. Plot a course for the Zilithian system, maximum speed. Admiral, Williams said urgently. Are you sure about this? If we're wrong, if these aliens are lying or if this is some kind of trap, we could be flying into disaster. Chen looked at the image of Ambassador Thren, frozen on the main screen. The alien's crystal features showed clear desperation and fear. No one could fake that kind of terror. Commander, I've been in the military for 22 years. I've seen real evil and I've seen real good. That alien is not lying. His people are going to die if we don't help them. But what about Earth Command? What about orders? Chen stood up and straightened her uniform. I'll send a message to Earth Command right now. I'll tell them exactly what we're doing and why. But I'm not going to sit here and wait for permission while an entire civilization gets wiped out. She touched her communicator again. Rodriguez, send a message to Earth Command, Priority 1. Tell them the 3rd Deep Space Fleet has encountered a first contact situation involving a species under attack by hostile aliens. Tell them we are responding to a humanitarian crisis and will report back as soon as possible. What if they order us to return immediately? Williams asked. Chen smiled grimly. By the time that message reaches us, this will all be over one way or another. Navigation reports course plotted and ready, Admiral, called Ensign Murphy. Time to destination? 18 hours at maximum speed. Chen sat back down in her command chair. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. In 18 hours, we will arrive at the Zilithian system. We will be facing an enemy that has never been defeated. An enemy that has consumed entire civilizations for over 1 million years. They expect us to run away like every other species in the galaxy. She paused, looking around at her bridge crew. Each face showed determination mixed with fear. Good. Fear kept you alive in combat. But we're not like every other species in the galaxy, she continued. We come from Earth. We evolved fighting every day just to survive. Our ancestors faced ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and every kind of disaster imaginable. They didn't give up, and neither will we. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed, leaving Earth's solar system behind. On Earth, Chen's message would not arrive for several days. By then, the galaxy would be a very different place. As the Indomitable raced through space, Chen stood at the viewing window again. She thought about her daughter, about her parents, about everyone she had ever cared about. Somewhere out there was an enemy that consumed entire worlds. If they were not stopped here, they might eventually find Earth. Admiral, Williams said, joining her at the window. I hope you know what you're doing. So do I, Commander. So do I. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zilithian system. What they saw made even veteran space officers stop and stare. The system was a war zone. Massive bioships shaped like insects moved between the planets in perfect formation. Each Vorthak vessel was alive, its hull pulsing with organic rhythms. They ranged from fighters the size of buildings to massive hive ships that dwarfed Earth's largest cities. My God, whispered Commander Williams. There are so many of them. Admiral Chen studied the tactical display. Thousands of red dots filled the screen, representing enemy contacts. A few scattered blue dots marked surviving Zilithian ships, but most were flickering and fading as she watched. "Communication from the inner system," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez. "It's the Zilithians." The main screen showed Ambassador Thren, but he looked different now. His crystal body was cracked and dim like a broken light bulb. Behind him, sparks flew from damaged equipment. "Unknown human vessels," Thren's voice was filled with panic. "You must flee immediately. The swarm will destroy you. We are grateful you came, but it is too late. Save yourselves." Chen leaned forward in her command chair. "Ambassador Thren, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Deep Space Fleet. We received your message. We're here to help. You do not understand." Thren's image flickered as his ship shook from weapon impacts. "The Vorthak have consumed our outer worlds. Our greatest warships lasted only minutes against them. Your small fleet cannot possibly—" The transmission cut off as Thren's ship exploded in the distance, a brief flash of light among the stars. The bridge fell silent. Chen felt anger building in her chest, the same anger she had felt when bullies picked on smaller kids back in school. These Vorthak were nothing but cosmic bullies, and she had never backed down from a bully in her life. "Tactical analysis," she ordered. Lieutenant Parker consulted his instruments. The enemy ships move in coordinated groups. No individual initiative detected. They seemed to operate like a single organism. Weaknesses? Unknown, Admiral. But their coordination might also be a weakness. If they all think alike, they might not adapt well to unexpected tactics. Chen nodded. "What would the military academy recommend for this situation?" "Strategic withdrawal pending reinforcement," Parker replied immediately. "We are outnumbered over 1,000 to 1. And what does common sense say?" Williams smiled grimly. "That we're about to do something incredibly stupid." Chen stood up and walked to the tactical display. She studied the enemy formations, looking for patterns. The Vorthak ships moved like schools of fish or flocks of birds, turning and changing direction as one. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "You know what this reminds me of?" she said. "The army ant colonies in South America. Millions of individuals, but they all follow simple rules. They're incredibly effective against anything that fights back the same way they do. But we're not going to fight back the same way they do," Williams said, understanding her meaning. "Exactly. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We are going to engage the enemy. Our tactics will be simple. Hit hard, hit fast, and never do what they expect." Chen touched her communicator. "All ships, break formation. Attack pattern Delta 7. Remember your training from the Saturn War Games. Individual ship commanders have full tactical authority. Do not wait for orders. The human fleet scattered like seeds in the wind. Instead of maintaining the tight formations that every other galactic species used, the ships spread out and began attacking from dozens of different directions at once. The first contact with the enemy happened when Captain Torres and the destroyer UES Defiant encountered a group of Vorthak fighters. The alien ships moved to surround his vessel in a classic pincer movement. Torres did not retreat. Instead, he accelerated directly at the largest enemy ship, firing every weapon he had. The Vorthak, expecting him to turn away, were caught completely off guard. The Defiant smashed through their formation like a missile, destroying 3 enemy fighters and damaging 2 others. "What is he doing?" asked Williams, watching the tactical display. "Exactly what I hoped he would do," Chen replied. "He's fighting like a human." More engagements erupted across the battlefield. The cruiser UES Thunderbolt, commanded by Captain Santos, found herself surrounded by a dozen Vorthak vessels. Instead of trying to escape, she ordered her crew to overload the ship's engines and ram the largest enemy bioship. The impact sent shockwaves through the Vorthak formation. For the first time in their million-year history, the swarm experienced something they had never felt before: confusion. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Chen watched her fleet in action. Human ships took damage that would have destroyed most galactic vessels, but they kept fighting. When the UES Courage lost half her hull to enemy fire, Captain Kim sealed the damaged sections and continued his attack with the remaining weapons. "Admiral," reported Dr. Martinez, "I'm detecting some kind of disruption in the enemy communications. Their coordination is breaking down." Chen smiled. "They're not used to prey that fights back. Signal all ships, press the attack. Show them what Deathworlders can do." The Vorthak tried to adapt, but their million years of easy victories had not prepared them for this. Every species they had ever encountered followed predictable patterns. retreat when outnumbered, preserve ships when damaged, avoid unnecessary risks. Humans did none of these things. When the battleship UES Vengeance lost her main weapons, Captain Morrison ordered his crew to use the ship as a battering ram. When the destroyer UES Relentless ran out of missiles, Captain Johnson ordered boarding parties to attack enemy ships with nothing but rifles and explosives. "This is impossible," Williams muttered, watching the tactical display. "We should be losing this fight." "We are losing," Chen replied. "But we're making them pay for every victory. And more importantly, we're teaching them something they've never learned before." "What's that?" "That sometimes the prey has teeth." The battle raged for 6 hours. Human ships were destroyed, brave crews were lost, but the Vorthak paid a terrible price. For every human vessel destroyed, 3 or 4 Vorthak ships were eliminated. More importantly, the swarm's perfect coordination was breaking down. Individual bioships began making mistakes, hesitating when they should advance, retreating when they should attack. As the human fleet regrouped for another assault, Chen received a message from the inner system. It was a surviving Zilithian commander, his voice filled with amazement. "Human Admiral, this is Fleet Commander Kith. We cannot believe what we are seeing. You are actually hurting them. In 300 years of war, no one has ever made the Vorthak retreat from a battle." Chen looked at her tactical display. Her fleet had been reduced to 31 operational ships, but the enemy had lost over 200 vessels. "Commander Kith," she replied, "we're just getting started. Tell your people to take cover. This is about to get much worse for the swarm." She turned to her bridge crew. "All ships prepare for Phase 2. It's time to show these bugs what happens when you threaten our neighbors." The Vorthak had ruled the galaxy through fear for 1,000,000 years. Today they were about to learn a new emotion: terror. The second phase of the battle began when Captain Maria Santos volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. Her ship, the UES Thunderbolt, had taken heavy damage but was still operational. Santos had an idea that made even Admiral Chen pause. "You want to do what?" Chen asked over the communication channel. "Board one of their hive ships, Admiral. We need to understand how they think, how they operate, and the only way to do that is to get inside one of those things." Chen looked at the tactical display. The largest Vorthak bioship was the size of a small moon, its organic hull pulsing with alien life. The idea of sending humans inside such a creature was terrifying. "Captain, that ship is a living organism. The interior could be filled with acid, poison gas, or worse." Santos smiled grimly on the view screen. "Admiral, my Marines are from Earth. We've been dealing with acid, poison, and worse since we learned to walk. Besides, somebody has to be first." Chen made her decision. "Do it, but take no unnecessary risks. Ma'am, we're about to board an alien bioship with rifles and explosives. Every risk is unnecessary." 20 minutes later, the Thunderbolt approached the massive Vorthak vessel. Santos had reduced her crew to volunteers only. Surprisingly, no one had chosen to leave. The boarding pods launched from the Thunderbolt like bullets, each one carrying 8 Marines in full combat gear. They had studied what little information the Zilithians had provided about Vorthak bioships, but no one really knew what to expect. Sergeant Rodriguez was the first human to set foot inside an alien hive ship. His boots landed on a surface that felt like warm, wet flesh. The corridor around him pulsed with orange light, and the air was thick with humidity and strange smells. "Contact," he reported through his radio. "Atmosphere is breathable but smells like a swamp. Temperature is about 38 degrees Celsius. The walls are definitely alive." As the Marines advanced deeper into the ship, they encountered their first Vorthak defenders. The aliens looked like a cross between giant ants and armored spiders, each one 3 meters tall with razor-sharp claws and natural armor plating. The first Vorthak warrior that attacked Sergeant Kim expected an easy kill. It had faced thousands of different species over the centuries, and they all died quickly when confronted by superior Vorthak biology. Kim did not die quickly. He rolled under the creature's claws, came up behind it, and emptied a full magazine of armor-piercing rounds into its back. When the creature turned to attack again, Kim grabbed a plasma grenade from his belt and shoved it into a gap in the alien's armor. The explosion echoed through the bioship's corridors. More Vorthak warriors came running, but they found the Marines had already moved to defensive positions. "These things are tough," reported Corporal Williams, "but they're not that bright. They just charge straight at us. Like everything else in this galaxy, replied Captain Santos over the radio. "They've never fought anyone who fights back properly." The Marines advanced through the ship, leaving a trail of destruction behind them. The Vorthak had biological advantages: stronger muscles, natural armor, and acid breath. But the humans had something the aliens had never encountered: tactical flexibility. When the corridors became too narrow for group tactics, the Marines split up. When the aliens tried to surround them, the humans used their explosives to collapse walls and create new paths. When the Vorthak tried to flood areas with poisonous gas, the Marines simply put on their masks and kept fighting. Meanwhile, on the surface of the Hive ship, human engineers were making disturbing discoveries. The ship's hull was not just alive. It was intelligent. It could repair damage, reroute systems around destroyed areas, and even grow new weapons. "Admiral," reported Chief Engineer Patel from the Thunderbolt, "this thing is like nothing we've ever seen. It's part ship, part creature, part computer. But I think I know how to hurt it." "Explain." "Every living thing has a nervous system. If we can find this ship's brain, we might be able to shut it down." Deep inside the bioship, Captain Santos was thinking the same thing. Her Marines had fought their way to what appeared to be a central chamber. The room was filled with pulsing organic tubes and strange alien machinery that seemed to grow from the walls. "This has to be some kind of control center," she said, studying the alien technology. "But how do we shut it down?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Private Johnson, the youngest member of her team, was studying one of the organic computers. He had grown up on a farm before joining the military, and something about the alien machinery reminded him of home. "Captain," he said suddenly, "this looks like a really big nervous system, like the kind of thing we studied in biology class." Santos looked where he was pointing. The alien machinery did look biological, with nerve-like fibers connecting different components. "You think we can disrupt it?" "On the farm, when we had to put down a sick animal, we knew exactly where to cut to make it quick and painless. This might work the same way." Santos made a decision that would be remembered in military history books for centuries to come. "Do it." Johnson used his combat knife to sever several of the largest nerve fibers. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The entire bioship shuddered and began to convulse. Emergency lights flickered throughout the vessel. "All teams get out now," Santos ordered. "This thing is dying." The Marines fought their way back to their boarding pods as the bioship thrashed in its death agony. Around them, the ship's systems were shutting down one by one. Vorthak warriors collapsed as the hive mind that controlled them failed. As the last human escaped, the massive bioship went dark and began to drift helplessly through space. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched in amazement as the largest enemy vessel stopped functioning. "How did they do that?" asked Commander Williams. "They did what humans always do," Chen replied.
"They figured out how to break something that everyone else thought was unbreakable." The destruction of the hive ship sent shockwaves through the entire Vorthak swarm. For the first time in their existence,
the collective mind experienced something that had no name in their language: doubt. Across the battlefield, other human ships began to adapt the new tactics. Boarding parties attacked bioships with surgical precision, targeting nervous systems and control centers. Engineers reverse-engineered Vorthak technology and used it against them. The Zilithians, watching from their hiding places, could barely believe what they were seeing. The peaceful crystal beings had never imagined that warfare could be so creative. "Fleet Commander Kith," reported one of his subordinates, "the humans are using our medical scanning equipment to locate enemy weak points." "Our medical equipment?" "Yes, sir. They somehow modified our healing devices into weapons. They are using tools meant to save lives to target the Vorthak nervous systems." Kith was quiet for a long moment. The Zilithians had shared their medical technology freely with the galactic community, never imagining it could be used for warfare. "These humans," he said finally, "they see possibilities where we see only limitations." As the battle continued, it became clear that something fundamental had changed. The Vorthak swarm, which had conquered the galaxy through superior coordination and overwhelming numbers, was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that refused to follow the rules. Human ships attacked in ways that made no tactical sense. Human soldiers fought in environments that should have killed them instantly. Human engineers turned peaceful technology into instruments of war. Most importantly, humans did not retreat when the situation became hopeless. They adapted, they improvised, and they kept fighting. The Vorthak collective mind, which had processed the destruction of millions of civilizations, struggled to understand what was happening. These new enemies were unlike anything in their vast memory. They were unpredictable. They were dangerous. And they were winning. The final battle took place in orbit around the Zilithian homeworld, where the massive Vorthak prime organism had positioned itself to begin the final consumption. The creature was beyond anything the humans had seen before, a bioship so large it had its own gravity field, its own atmosphere, and its own weather systems. Admiral Chen stared at the monster on her view screen. The prime organism was not just a ship. It was a living planet covered in weapons and filled with millions of Vorthak warriors. From its surface, countless smaller bioships launched like seeds from a dying flower. "Tactical assessment," she ordered. Lieutenant Parker's voice was shaky as he read his instruments. "Admiral, that thing is generating enough power to sterilize the entire planet below. Our weapons won't even scratch it. Time until it begins the planetary consumption? 2 hours, maybe less," Chen nodded grimly. Her fleet had been reduced to 19 operational ships, while the enemy still numbered in the thousands. By any rational calculation, the humans had already accomplished the impossible just by surviving this long. But Admiral Sarah Chen had not come this far to watch an entire civilization die. "All ships. This is Admiral Chen. We have one chance to end this. We're going to attack the prime organism directly." "Admiral," Commander Williams said quietly, "that's suicide. That thing could eat our entire fleet and not even notice." "Maybe. But I've been thinking about something Captain Santos discovered during her boarding mission. Every living thing has a brain. Even that monster out there has to have some kind of central nervous system." Chen touched her communicator. "All ships, listen carefully. We're going to do something that no military academy would ever teach. We're going to use the Indomitable as a guided missile." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. "Ma'am," Rodriguez said, "you're talking about ramming that thing with our own ship. Not just ramming it. We're going to ram it and then board it. We're going to find its brain and cut it out." Williams shook his head. "Admiral, even if we could get inside that thing, we'd never find our way to any kind of control center. It's the size of a small moon." Chen smiled grimly. "That's where our Zilithian friends come in. Rodriguez, open a channel to Fleet Commander Kith." The alien's crystal face appeared on the screen, cracked and dim but still functioning. "Admiral Chen, our sensors show you are approaching the prime organism. Please tell me you are not planning what I think you are planning." "Commander Kith, I need to know everything your people have learned about Vorthak biology. Specifically, where would something that size keep its brain?" Kith was quiet for a moment. "Our scientists believe that creatures of this size would need a central processing center near their core. But Admiral, the radiation levels inside that organism would kill you within minutes. Commander, we come from a planet where radiation is just another environmental hazard. We'll manage." Even so, the distance to the core would be thousands of kilometers through hostile territory. Chen looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These people had followed her across the galaxy and into the jaws of certain death. They deserved to know exactly what she was asking of them. "All hands, this is Admiral Chen speaking. In 30 minutes, this ship is going to ram the largest enemy vessel in their fleet. I won't lie to you, most of us probably won't survive. But if we succeed, we can save an entire civilization and send these invaders back where they came from." She paused, looking out at the stars one last time. "I'm not ordering anyone to stay. Anyone who wants to transfer to another ship has 15 minutes to do so. No questions asked, no marks on your record." 15 minutes later, not a single person had left their post. The Indomitable began its final approach to the prime organism. Around them, the other human ships provided cover, fighting desperately to clear a path through the defensive swarm. Captain Torres in the UES Defiant sacrificed his ship to destroy a cluster of biofighters. Captain Kim in the UES Courage used his damaged vessel to ram a massive defensive structure. One by one, the human ships gave their lives to protect Chen's desperate mission. The prime organism's weapons focused on the approaching Indomitable, bathing the ship in energy that would have vaporized any normal vessel. But the Indomitable had been built to survive in deep space, where radiation and extreme temperatures were constant threats. "Hull breach on decks 7 through 12, reported the damage control officer. "Engineering reports main engines operating at 40% efficiency." "All power to forward shields," Chen ordered. "Everyone hold on." The Indomitable struck the prime organism's surface like a spear thrown by an angry god. The ship's reinforced hull pierced the bioship's outer skin and drove deep into its interior. Emergency bulkheads sealed the human ship as organic matter tried to flood in through the breach. "Boarding parties launch now," Chen ordered. Captain Santos led 200 Marines into the alien vessel. The interior was a nightmare of pulsing flesh and organic machinery, lit by bioluminescent growths that cast everything in an eerie green glow. The air was thick with humidity and filled with spores that made breathing difficult even through filters. The Marines moved quickly through corridors that contracted and expanded like breathing tubes. Vorthak warriors attacked them constantly, but the aliens seemed confused and disorganized. The massive collision had damaged the prime organism's nervous system. "This way," Santos called, following readings from a scanner modified with Zilithian medical technology. The central nervous system should be about 2 kilometers ahead. The journey became a running battle through living tunnels filled with hostile aliens. The Marines used their explosives to blast through walls of flesh and bone, leaving a trail of destruction as they fought toward their target. Behind them, the Indomitable's crew worked desperately to keep their ship functional. Emergency repairs were conducted while under fire from internal defense systems. Chief Engineer Patel literally held damaged power conduits together with his bare hands while his team rerouted critical systems. Deep in the heart of the prime organism, Santos finally found what they were looking for. The central nervous system was a vast chamber filled with pulsing neural networks that connected every part of the massive creature. At the center sat something that looked like a gigantic brain made of crystal and flesh. "There," she pointed. "That's got to be it." The Marines set their explosives while fighting off waves of Vorthak defenders. The aliens seemed to understand that their entire existence depended on protecting this chamber. "Charges set," reported Sergeant Kim. "We have 30 seconds to get clear." They did not have 30 seconds. A massive Vorthak warrior, larger than any they had seen before, blocked their escape route. This creature looked different from the others. Older, more intelligent, and filled with desperate fury. Santos realized this was probably the prime organism's brain, given physical form to defend itself.
She also realized that none of them were going to survive this mission. "Rodriguez," she said into her radio, "tell Admiral Chen we found the target."
Tell her we did our job." The explosives detonated with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The blast tore through the prime organism's central nervous system, severing connections that had controlled the creature for thousands of years. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Across the battlefield, Vorthak bioships suddenly stopped moving in coordination. Individual vessels began colliding with each other as their collective consciousness failed. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen felt the massive organism shudder and convulse around her ship. Emergency lights flickered as systems throughout the creature began to fail. "All remaining ships," she broadcast. "The prime organism is dying. Focus all attacks on the smaller vessels while they're confused." The human fleet, reduced now to just 8 operational ships, pressed their attack with renewed fury. Without the coordination provided by the prime organism, the Vorthak swarm was just a collection of individual bioships, each one operating on basic instinct, and basic instinct told them to flee. For the first time in their million-year history, the Vorthak swarm broke and ran. Bioships that had never known defeat suddenly found themselves alone and terrified. They scattered in all directions, fleeing into deep space. Within hours, the system was clear. The Vorthak invasion was over. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her damaged ship, looking out at the Zilithian homeworld. The planet was scarred but alive, its crystal cities reflecting the light of their star. "Admiral," Commander Williams said, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command." Chen smiled tiredly. "I bet we are. Put it through." The face of Admiral Morrison, head of Earth's Deep Space Command, appeared on the screen. He looked angry, confused, and proud all at the same time. "Admiral Chen, what the hell did you do out there?" "We made some new friends, sir, and we taught some old bullies a lesson they won't forget." Morrison was quiet for a moment. "The Galactic Council is requesting immediate diplomatic contact with Earth. They want to offer us membership in their civilization." Chen looked out at the stars, thinking about all the brave people who had died to make this moment possible. Captain Santos, Sergeant Kim, and hundreds of others had given their lives so that strangers could live free.